Hello, this is Mike from Marlin Financial Advisors. Today I want to talk about a two-fund portfolio option for building your income portfolio. I know I have plenty of other videos talking about more theory about income portfolios and why would you have them and things like that, but today we're just going to talk about like a two-fund portfolio for producing income, whether it's, your early retiree or fire movement or whatever you're doing, uh, and kind of how we can make this as simple as possible and still get kind of the best of all the worlds here. And as you know, there's three attributes of each investment. There's going to be your current income, your growth potential, and your stability of those dividends. Okay, and that's how we're going to rank these. I have two let's say sample funds, XLU, which is just a fund that covers the utility sector. So there's plenty of other ones that cover the utility sector, but they'll all be the same or similar, excuse me, on their characteristics. And then SEHD, which is doing quite well and is kind of a growth and dividend model. I chose this one because it has a higher yield. So let's get into it. So income, I think it's about 3.6 right now. Let's just make this simple, and this is paying a dividend of 3.3. I think they're both slightly higher, like a couple bips higher, but let's just say those are the two numbers, right? And growth wise, this keeps up about even with inflation. Okay, so that's nice because you get but stability, uh, I don't know, 9 out of 10, right on stability ranking, because here it went down, I believe it was 3% in 08. The dividends went down. So that's the fund might move, right? But I'm looking at the stability of dividends. The dividends only went down 3% in the worst financial crash we've seen. So I think those are extremely stable. So XLU or utility sector ETF and in summary is produces you a little bit of income, keeps up with inflation, but really stable, right? So this is kind of your safety side of the weighting. So if you want more safety, right? And I mean safety as in stability of dividends, of course. Reliance on those dividends, you're going to be over here more. If we want more growth, like SEHD can give us, and it actually gives us a little more yield, we're over here. So inflation, it might make after paying its dividend, it might make 2 to 3% over inflation. 2 to 3% uh, more than inflation. Inflation. And that depends if it's a good decade or a bad decade. SCHD, unfortunately, has only been around in the 2010s, which is an amazing decade, so we don't really know. I'm going to use VYM as an alternative because VYM actually went through 08. So, but this is just kind of my opinion on the long-term growth rate, I think. But this definitely has growth to it, right? It's not like this where it's just keeping up with inflation. There's definitely some growth to it long term. If you go through a recession, you're going to get hit. VYM, which I'm using as a substitute here, their dividends dropped about 25% in 2008. So if you can tell, there's a big difference. Okay. Now, that's the sacrifice you take for having a lot more growth potential, though. So understand that. And this is also in 2008, which was the worst financial crisis. If another recession comes up, I personally don't think it's going to drop 25%. Your dividend's going to drop 25%. But who knows? Unfortunately, I just don't know. But that's kind of how I look at it. I'm like, okay, so just to compare kind of the characteristics, you get more income here and you get more growth. But you're definitely you need a backup plan in case dividends drop 10 or 15% or something like that in a recession for a couple years, right? I think VYM dropped 25% and then it was back. The dividend was back, not inflation adjusted, but back to where it was within 3 years. So really not that bad. But there can be some movement there. So basically what I want you to think about is like this is safety, right? This is more growth and income, and just and based on your goals, if you need more yield, or you need more stability, or whatever you want, or you want more growth for future generations, or for income 10 or 20 years from now, find where you are on this scale, right? Maybe you're here, maybe, oh, goodness. Maybe you're here at 25/70. Oh, I probably did that wrong. I did that in the wrong way. Let's flip those numbers around. Maybe you're going to be, right, this would be like 100% and then 0. This would be 75/25. Oops, did that wrong. 50/50. 25/75. 20. Good thing I can't write. Oh, goodness. 25/75. And this would be I'm sorry, 0/100. Okay. And it's kind of as simple as that. Is you just find the right middle ground, right? You just find where you're comfortable. And as long as and this is obviously very simple with just as small of funds as possible. As long as you're okay with it yielding anywhere from 3.6 to 3.3%, say you have $1 million, right? That's 36,000 to 33,000. Which you think about, well, it's only $3,000. It doesn't, the income doesn't matter. It's not that big of a difference. So maybe think about, well, one, if you want to stretch for yield here, and how volatile will you allow the dividends to be? Can you pull back if times get tough? Or do you want just, hey, I just want to set it up here, and I want, maybe I put a little bit in growth, but most of it's here because I want a really stable dividend, and I just really need to keep up with inflation so I can enjoy it and not worry. Or are you striving for more income, more future growth? Growth pays off long term, though. So if you want, if you're thinking 10 years down the road, the growth is going to pay off, unless we run into some horrible decade. But I don't see that. Well, could happen, but the growth will pay off. So the earlier you retire, if you're 80, maybe growth doesn't matter as much depending on your objectives. If you're 60, if you're 50, doing like early retiree, then probably putting some in growth would be great. But I hope that makes a lot of sense. You can just basically use this really simple scale, and you can just find your kind of your sweet spot in here, and then there you go. And then you can test it on Portfolio Visualizer and see how it's done through the years. This is more stability. This is more growth and a little more income, and you take it from there. Have a good one.